Okay, tonight I want to talk about Fernwood's Botanical Garden. Has a railroad garden that was designed by Paul Bussey out of Kentucky, and he specializes in making garden railroads out of natural material. And 5 weeks ago today, they were over to rebuild their part of our garden railroad, and I thought it's kind of interesting how they did it. So I thought everybody might be interested to see how they construct or rebuild some of their garden railroads. Fernwood's located between Niles and Buchanan, Michigan. The easiest way to see where it's located is just think of it as about 20 miles north of South Bend, Indiana. The yeah, the garden was built by Paul Bussey. As I get back to the right screen here, originally it was first built in 2009. It ran for about 5 years, and we had a fire that totally destroyed the majority of the operations, the structures. It was rebuilt the following April, and we've been running since April 2016 until just this April. 5 weeks ago, they decided to do some major renovation work on it because, as you can see, some of the material has been deteriorating. I'm going to show you some slides of the pictures that were taken approximately 2 years ago. And you see all the trestles are all built out of natural material. In this case, Paul likes to use swamp willow, something that you can find along the banks of various rivers and creeks. And here we see our upper track, track 1 running on top. Below that, we've got track 2. Altogether, we have 6 tracks available to us here at Fernwood. 4 of those are loops. As we go through, I'll explain, show you the different loops. Here's another scene of track 2, a train coming around the bend. And below down here, you see a small structure, which is part of the St. Joe Lighthouse. When Paul Bussey designs these gardens, he likes to choose some historic buildings of the area to build out of natural material. We'll see more details of his construction techniques and how they look. Another view is of track 1 across the top, track 2 down here with the train coming out. The bridge here is the old bridge that was we called the West Bridge. And you can see it's plexiglass. The reason the plexiglass is placed is bridge is only 4 feet off the ground, so kids would naturally like to play, hang on the bridge and stuff like that. So they've placed plexiglass on the sides to keep the kids from hanging onto the bridge. You can see down the side here, we got slabs of cedar siding. And that generally covers up different structures and buildings made out of 2x4s and plywood. Here we have a front view of the garden. If you're walking down the pathway, you see the north bridge here and the various trestles on both sides of the bridge. As you notice, if you take a good look at the bridge, we got a slight sag there. In the middle of the bridge is sagging about 1.5 inches. There's various things we tried to figure out to try to straighten it, but it was past the point that we could really do much on straightening that bridge. Again, here we see track 1 is the upper track. That's approximately 7 foot off the ground. Track 2 over here, that's roughly 4 feet. And just off in the far corner here, we have track 3. That's only about 1.5 feet off the ground. We'll see more of these tracks later. Here's the south bridge, train going across. If you notice here, there's also a slight sag to that. This is about an inch sag on that. Not too bad when you consider this bridge is approximately 9 foot across from end to end. The way they build these bridges, the sub-road bed is 3/4 plywood, and then you have another layer on top of that for the road bed, another 3/4 inch layer of plywood, and it runs a cable from one end of the bridge bolted to the other end of the bridge. There's a turnbuckle in the center. And that pretty much keeps it straight for quite a few years. And if you ever go to Paul Bussey's webpage, they show a bridge that they're building for the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. And that bridge is roughly 12 foot across, and it has two guys hanging on it. So the structures are very strong initially. And even now, somebody could hang on this older bridge and still it would be pretty safe. And again, another view of the track one above track two here. And you can see the trestles made out of the swamp willow. And again, we have the bark slab wood covering up the structures, plywood and 2x4s support structures. Now, this is one of the buildings, and this is one that Paul wanted, and sort of was the reason that Paul built this, agreed to build this small railroad garden. This is a model of Niles Train Depot, which is pretty popular and famous. It's been in quite a few movies. And all the structures are built out of natural material. He starts out with a foam core structure, and then he laminates various natural materials on it. And it could be bark, it could be small twigs, could be fungi he's pulled off of trees and they've treated it. But everything's all natural material. You see a small pine cone up here, and it's really unbelievable the amount of detail they can get out of this natural material. This is an overhead view or drawing on his layout. And this garden is roughly 60 by 60 foot. It's the smallest garden that Paul's ever built. Most of his layouts run upward of 1,000 foot of track. He was real hesitant building this garden in the first place, but our director knew him when she was working at the Chicago Botanical Gardens. They have a Paul Bussey garden there that they run 9 trains continuously. And when she moved to Fernwood, she tried to kept talking to Paul to build a railroad, and he finally agreed to it. And just quickly, we'll go through the tracks. The longest track is 165 foot. And this is the one we see here. It comes, the structure here is actually a plywood building and laminated with the cedar siding. And there's approximately 2.5 tons of cedar siding was used to build this train garden. But track one will come out of the depot, go around, head south, cross the South Bridge, turn back around, head north, and go back inside the depot, through a crossover, leave the north entrance of the depot, come around and go across the North Bridge, and then back into the depot. And again, it's roughly 165 feet. And we've got a little small quick video here. We're coming out of the depot heading south. And this area as we go through is sort of a favorite area for the raccoons, and I'll explain why I say that later. We shot this video early in the morning, so the sun's low, and the camera is just a little slow to respond to the various degrees of sun it's seeing. This is the South Bridge we'll be going over, and as you take a look at the bridge, you can see the kind of deteriorating. Pieces are missing, broken off. Some of them are still laying close to the track. Now we turn heading north, going back towards the depot. And again, we're approximately 7 foot off the ground. The cable she's strung on the right and left side just so it minimizes the chances of the engine falling all the way to the ground. We're back inside, go over 30-degree crossover, heading through the building and ready to come out the north side of the building. And then here we're make the turn. We're heading for the North Bridge. I don't know if you notice the sag as we approach the bridge, but she sort of crawls a little bit up as it gets off the bridge. Makes a turn, and we'll be returning back to the depot. So that's our longest track, 165 feet. And you see our engineers off to the bottom right there. And we'll next take a look at track 2. The West Depot will come out, relatively short track, only 90 feet, go alongside the depot, come across a small bridge, go through some slab lumber, make a 180 turn, go across what I call the West Bridge at the back end. So quicker than the other one. This is only 90 feet. And above you can see track 1 and North Bridge. And again, you see train going across in track 1 above us. We'll make a sharp curve. Right through here, we go through about 10 feet of slab lumber and stuff. And again, this is nice, another area the raccoons would love to visit. Swing around, we see the South Bridge, and then we'll make the turn and then go across the West Bridge and back into the depot. Next track we'll go quickly, and we'll take track 3. This is the one loop over here. It'll come out the east side, the East Depot, and we're only going to be about 1.5 feet off the ground. And we'll go on around, go to the south end, make a swing, go across the small bridge, and then come back and then go back in the depot. And this track is only 80 feet long. In this track, we have a lot of overhanging shrubs and evergreens with the kids and the people like to see the trains hide in the bushes. And we do have a 7-foot waterfall we just went past off to our left. We'll see that in a minute just before we go back into the depot. Okay, that was track 3. And the last track we'll see, we'll take a quick trip on track 4. That's even shorter. This is only 60 foot. And we'll come out of the depot, head north, make a 180 turn, go alongside go underneath track 1 and track 2, zigzag back and forth, and come right back to the depot. So fairly quick. And that was our 4 tracks that we got in operation right now. And you might know some areas that sort of a little deteriorated. So we made an agreement requesting Applied Imagineering to come up and do some repair work on it. And this is the crew that came up. You see, you got 4 workers, 2 men, 2 women, and of course the boss on the far left, that's Laura Bussey. She's the daughter of Paul Bussey, the original Natural Garden Railroad designer. and we'll see what how they go through and restore some of the bridges and trusses that we needed to have repaired. They showed up 5 weeks ago at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't show up until 9, so they had a little head start on me. They've already, within the first hour, they've already replaced the northern bridge across the top. You see if they have a laser scanner leveler. They've installed tripod and a tripod here. Here you see Laura running back and forth getting the crew started. A little bit this different view. You see here's the old bridge located right down here at the bottom. And it looks a little ratty, and some of the trestles already been removed. They've got temporary supports. They've got a little jack post here that they've got in place. They've got another one over here. The bridge is temporarily supported, and now they're starting to remove the old trestles and starting to replace it with new ones. Here's a little bit better view. You see a temporary supports, and they got a new trestle in there just temporarily set up. And they've got one on this side. Again, here's the bridge here, the North Bridge, the old one. And it looks fairly sturdy, but I had it demolished within about 5 minutes. And that's what's left of it. The rest of it's in the cart. Here we've got the old trestles been removed while they're installing the new ones. If we go back to the south side of the garden, they've got the old bridge removed and the south bridge. Here's the new one laying in position. And they've got the ends of the approaches to the bridge temporarily jacked up in this case. Here we see some of the new trestles. The trestles, they know the approximate height based on the original drawings when they built the garden. So the trestles are pre-made down in Kentucky. And what they do is they make them extra long so they can trim them in place. We'll see how they do the measurements and stuff. Another view of the old bridge. And again, doesn't take too much time to demolish this thing. It's fairly strong when it's intact and when it's new, but again, 5 to 7 minutes and it's gone. Another view here, we see the new trestles laying in position. Here's the new bridge getting ready to be put in position. We also have a cart full of cedar slabs. They're going to add another support on the end to support the end of the bridge. The new bridge is approximately a foot shorter than the old bridge. And the reason for that, normally if we would request them to build new bridges, they would have built it to spec to replace original. But these bridges that we got were all made for a project that they had contracted for last year. But the person ordering the railroad garden sort of backed out and closed and didn't finish the deal. So we got these bridges sort of on a discount. And part of the problem was this one was a 1 foot shorter, so they had to spend some time making an adjustment for that 1 foot shorter bridge. Right now I'm standing right where right below the south bridge is located. We're looking north. Here we see part of the new section of the west bridge. And this is the what I call the depot. It's a plywood building covered with slabs of cedar. Here we see track 2 going back and track 1 up on the top. And over here we see the waterfall, which the pump's not turned on. Most of the tools they use for building the trestles and stuff are all staples using pneumatic air guns. And here they had a DeWalt compressor that was running approximately 5 guns. You can see that this is a view of the west bridge. The old section has been removed. They've installed temporary supports to hold it up while one of the workers starts installing the new trestles. Now, as they do this, they're constantly running a level along the line, adjusting the height of the track to make sure the track is as level as possible. Here's a close-up view. Here's temporary supports. You can see he's got the new trestles in place, and he's doing some shimming and stuff. Now they actually the cross members here in the upper part of the trestles are screwed into the sub road bed. What you see here is small pieces of cedar around 3 or 4 inches long that they staple to the side of the road beds just sort of to hide the road bed and give them more of a natural appearance. Down the bottom, here's one of the tracks. It'll be track 6. We plan to put in operation this year. We haven't used it in the last couple of years. So this year we're planning to bring those back in service. They're basically 2 tracks that are out and back, using reversing circuits. Now here we see the west bridge has been installed. It's all leveled up. We've got the trusses already installed, trestle beds already installed, and all braced up. So really track 2 is pretty much ready to go on this. So on the south end, they're still working on the north end, working on that. Again, working on the south bridge, because the bridge was shorter, they had to make some extensions to the road bed, the sub road bed, and that's what you see him adding these pieces here. We got another tech. They put the south bridge in place. She's securing some 2x4s to support the road bed, sub road bed, and she'll actually make a box, somewhat of an open box in this, and then I'll close that in with the slab wood. And here you see one of the jacks they used, temporary jacks they used to hold up the track while they're doing the adjustments. Here's one of the guys. He's extended the other end of the south bridge. He's cutting slabs to cover up some additional 2x4s he had to put in there to lengthen that approach going to the bridge. The guy was done tracked on the west bridge. He's coming out of this area here is track 1. The south bridge is over here. What he's doing now, he's leveling this section of track. You can just see it here, but these 2 sections of track between these supports, I sort of had like a 1-inch dip on this side and this side. And I spent the last year trying to figure out how to straighten those things up, maybe with some angle iron or something like that, and how to delicately make the adjustment. And it's kind of funny that these people come in, they've got like 4-foot crowbars, they're really racking on these things, making the adjustments and stuff. When finally they end up, those things are pretty level, pretty square. Again, just a quick thing, we've got the north bridge we're working on, that's been replaced. South bridge replaced, the west bridge is replaced. And now we just got a few more odds and ends to finish up. Now, also when a Fernwood Railroad Gardens has 5 historic structures that Applied Imagineering built to represent the significant structures of the area. And here we see the top of the golden top here, and that's actually, it will be that's a model of the Golden Dome, Notre Dame. And we have the lighthouse at St. Joe sitting in this box. They're shipping crates just protecting them as they come in. Here's the Golden Dome of Notre Dame and the building, the administration building. And this is really unbelievable detail. This is all natural material. You can see there's a gourd here, there's gourds over here. There's all sorts of twigs and leaves and bark they've used to make the roofs, the windows. Little curlicue things across the top. You ask the people what they figure out what those are, and nobody can really figure out what they are. What they are, they're the tendrils of the grapevine that attaches to the ropes and the holds the grapevines on the trellises and stuff. And they just cut those off and glue them on in place. Here you can see a row of acorns around this level. They build these things and then they pour polyurethane over them. And I set them in a tub and I just keep pouring this urethane over and over until they get a nice thick coating on it. And it's UV retardant material that you're using to try to protect the finishes. The lighthouse here, that was rebuilt and brought up this spring. And we sort of had to redo that, send it back to it, because in wintertime we bring these buildings in just to minimize the wear from the freeze of snow and ice. And the lighthouse is placed in our indoor conservatory or indoor garden. They put it on top of an area which is about 6 foot off the ground. Halfway through the winter, the raccoons found a way into it, and the lighthouse was pushed off the side, did a 6 foot drop, and didn't fare very well. So we sent it back to Applied Imagineering to repair it, and this is what it looks like. Surprisingly, the lighthouse weighs approximately 80 pounds, and the Notre Dame is roughly 100 pounds. So they're quite heavy. I was surprised when we lifted up and we took them down to the Ed Center to cover them over for the night while they're finished working on the garden. Now, how they put the trusses together, well, the guys first come in and they'll rake the ground with a trowel to get down to firm ground. He'll put these like 8-inch square pads of pressure treated plywood, 3/4 inch plywood. And he's got a 10-pound maul. He just hammers away on those things till they don't move anymore. And he's got the base in position. The next thing he does, he grabs one of the new bents, flips it over upside down, and then he goes up and marks the top, which is actually the length of the legs. He'll cut those off, and then he'll flip it back over, put it on the pads, and then here you see one of the women screwing the top cross piece into the sub road bed using galvanized screws. And you notice when they removed the old bent, they just sort of hit it with their hands, and all the pieces broke. You also notice this bent over here is sort of a cripple, doesn't have any legs to it, and we ran that for a year. And slowly but surely, the old trestles and the bents and stuff were being aged and breaking off. They cut the bents using this battery-powered DeWalt 4-inch little hand skill saw. Here you see the box of the foot pads, the plywood pads that they use. And here you see some new bents waiting to get installed. Here's also some new bents leaning up here against the house. They've got three bents in place over here, and they're working on the west side of the North Bridge. And he's continuing on over to the west side here, removing the old bents one at a time, be replacing with the new ones. Again, it's a track 1. Track 2 is just come underneath it. That's running here. He's positioning more of the bents. Getting those in position. And notice there's no crossing. There's no cross reinforcement of the bents yet. We'll see shortly how they do that. Here we got temporary support continuing on with track 1. Well, he's getting ready to continue. See track 1, track 2, and then track 4 on the bottom here. Now the cross, how they reinforce the bents, tie the bents together. They bring these piles of, again, it's swamp willow that they cut. They go down to the riverbank and start whacking these things, cut them, bundle them up, and bring them up. What they'll do is they'll put those in. They'll staple them to one bent, go all the way across, depending on how many want to connect. They'll cut them off and they'll run staples in all the cross pieces. Then they'll do the crosses between the bents to also reinforce that. So they just have one person that'll be taking those long pieces, thin pieces of willow, and they'll be stapling to reinforcing the bents. And at this point here, he's finishing up on track 2. He's got one more block to put in, and then he'll finish up. Meanwhile, if we go back on the south side, north side's pretty much wrapping up. Again, the guy's continuing over on track 1, leveling that up, reinforcing that. And the other gentleman's over here doing the final attachment on the east end of the bridge, of the south bridge. Again, we got track 1 here, track 2 over on the right. Track 3 is, you see down here on the towards the ground. Again, that's only about a foot, foot and a half. You can just make out a little squirrely track here. This is our track 6. This swirls back and forth around these supports and comes out and stops over here. All it is a reversing track. We hope to have that running by the end of this year. Get a little bit more work. They're really hustling, and right now you're talking about, it's roughly 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They're whacking away with a staple gun, and all of a sudden the yellow compressor just belches out a big black ball of black smoke, and the motor fried. So Laura quick got on the phone. She made a few phone calls. She found that she had an identical compressor was available in Niles, Michigan at the Lowe's store. So he ran down there and they got it running, and they finished up the work. Here's a good view of the new trestles going in. He's finishing up and attaching the west end of the south bridge. The west bridge is all intact, and we're getting pretty close to calling it. Here's just a shot from the south looking north. Here's the old south bridge. Again, it only took me about 5 to 7 minutes to completely flatten it and put it in the cart. And the area here is the child's explorer's garden for the kids. Most of the willows are being attached using these 1.5 inch staples with a 1/4 inch crown. And here's the fasteners that they use in various places. Whenever they're screwing the bents to the road bed, they're using screws. All the bents are fabricated using staples. This is the 1.25 inch staple. It's used most of the time, and if they got bigger pieces, they need to staple some of the slabs to the building stuff. They might use the longer staples. And after the end of the day, at approximately 5:15, this is the group. And I asked him to remove the mask. And he said, how about a shot so I can see what you look like? And this is the 2 women, the 2 guys, and the boss is Laura Bussey Dolan is her married name. She's quite an engineer. She's very enthusiastic about the whole Garden Railroad project. And they do a great job. And I couldn't believe you didn't see anybody taking any long breaks or anything. They were hustling most of the time. And this is part of the group, the original group. The larger 2/3 had gone back to Kentucky. They had spent the previous 2 days over Chicago working in the garden over there. And this was all about a week later, we moved the trains down and just some quick track cleanup. May 1st was their opening day for Railroad Garden. Here you can see the new trestles in place. We can see trolley on track 2 going across a small bridge, and track 1's up on the top again. And of course, this is time. This is what we like to see is the kids taking off looking for the trains. You see one going around track 1 heading towards the south bridge. And of course, this time we had the redbud trees that were in full blossom, which adds a little color to it. And the people are starting to crowd in. And this is a common sight. This is a small group. We have, you can see as many as maybe 20 to 40 people at a time coming through the railroad gardens. They're always excited to see the trains running, both the young and the old. And here you can see one of the trains going across the top. The caboose in this case is one of our cleaning cabooses that I use to clean the tracks. And once we're in operation, some of the challenges we have here is, well, one is lubricating and cleaning the engines. These engines run, we start, the gardens open at 10 o'clock in the morning. They start the trains at 10 and we run them until 5 o'clock at night. So we do that 5 days a week. So we got 35 hours there. And then on Sunday, we're open from 10 to 5. So another 5 hours on that. We end up with running these trains roughly 40 hours a week. Now, if we have somebody manning the gardens, we do shut down the trains if nobody's around. But right now, it's not uncommon. If nobody's there to man the garden, they start their trains at 10 o'clock in the morning and they turn them off at 5 at night. So if you go to the manuals from USA Trains, they say you should lubricate the trains every 40 hours. So we have to, we lubricate the trains once a week, keep in operation. We've had pretty good luck on those lately. The other challenge to us is track cleaning. We have the clean caboose. It was just, it has a lightly abrasive pad underneath the caboose. We drag that around. We do that 20 minutes a week for each track. And after we get done cleaning it, we use a technique by, we soak a little rag with some kerosene and we rub the track down 3 or 4 feet, both rails, and let the train carry it around from there. And this was a technique that was brought up and suggested to me from Ron Christensen, one of our prime railroad people here. And we used that technique last year. And I really had no problems as far as maintaining electrical contact between the trains and the rails. So it's a good technique. The boss sort of cringed when he heard the term kerosene, especially after thinking about 6 years ago they had the fire and the place burned down. But he sort of acknowledged the fact, especially I told him any other liquid track clean solution is probably more flammable than kerosene. But, so we do that 20 minutes a week on each track, and then we lubricate or coat the track about 3 to 5 feet of track with the kerosene. The other challenge we have for cleaning is raccoons. If you remember, I talked about 2 areas that we went through on track 1 and track 2 that were enclosed by the cedar siding. Well, the raccoons love to visit that at night. And if they visit that, say on a Sunday night, we're closed Monday, and we start up on Tuesday morning, sometimes enough time that the droppings that they leave on the track, they dry out, and it's like hitting hot dogs. And the train will derail. Hopefully it'll stay on the track or the roadbed, won't fall to the ground. And it's a matter of taking out the dried remains and putting the train back on the track and get it running. Now that's the lucky part. If you're not lucky, they do it the night. The next morning we run the next morning, then we get the wet droppings. And it's amazing how those things can smear over the bottom of your locomotive, totally wiping out the wheels with ruin your conductivity between your wheels and your track. And it takes you about 30 or 40 minutes to wipe off the wheels, the track, the electrical pickups on the engines, and get the thing running again. So, and the final thing is in the fall, starting around September, we have stink bugs. And stink bugs love to head for someplace where they can hide out for the winter time. In our case, they invade the depot. They'll crawl up in the cars, and they even crawl up and get into the locomotives. And here we see a GP30 that I brought home last fall that needed some repair. It wasn't working. And when I opened it up last October, this is what I ran across. You can see the critters scattered all through and these are all dead. And they're really packed into the circuit boards in the front and top again. You remove one circuit board from the front light sections. This is what you see packed underneath. And after you cleaned up the main circuit board, you can see it's a lot of black areas, and they actually got to the point where the circuit board was totally shorted out and fried. This is the bottom side of the same circuit board. It was just toast, so to speak. But so this board was no longer functional, but a friend of mine duplicated his board for us. And this was also had capability to supply smoke system and audible capabilities. And we really don't use that. So I just said, well, let's make a new circuit board just for the lights. And he did, and it works fine. We're running the train right now. But so the sync bugs is something, just another added feature to give us a challenge to keep things operating. I want to spend just a few minutes thanking the people that really made the Fernwood Train Garden possible and keep it operational, and especially inviting back Applied Imagineering to do their major repair work. They were talking about doing it themselves, but they finally convinced themselves to bring in the experts and let them get it done quickly. Our executive director is Carol Line. She got a lot of experience over in Chicago Botanical Gardens. That's how she met Paul Bussey and finally convinced him to build the railroad garden for Fernwood. Steve Bornell, he's the manager of facilities and grounds. He's in charge of railroad garden. And of course, our own Paul Ewing, he's been a member and has spent many years working on our engines and keeping the rolling stock in condition. Also, we have Dave and Donna Porter. They have assisted me a lot over this winter and over the past couple of years in operation of trains and doing train maintenance and repair and operation. And just lately, we got a new person on board. She used to be a chef, and because of COVID, she came out and is working with Fernwood in the train garden. She's doing a lot of operation work and also repairing the rolling stock. She can replace a coupler on any one of these cars in about 3 minutes. She's very proficient. And of course, Applied Imagination. There's a company that designed our garden. And altogether, they started out in 1982. They now have over 10 gardens that are open in the summertime throughout the United States. And they range anywhere from New York to Atlanta to Omaha, Nebraska. In addition to the 10 summer displays, they also have 9 holiday gardens they set up strictly for the period from around the holidays, especially Christmas, from early December to the end of January. And then we got 9 of those. You interested in seeing more about their organization and stuff, the webpage at the bottom, appliedimagination.com. They've got a fantastic webpage showing their details. They also have videos of making these structures, these buildings that they built. Some of these buildings they've built are as large as 10 foot long and 3 foot deep and 4 foot high. They're really highly impressive structure. It's a great engineering organization that they have there. And I sort of recommend you go to that page and see what they got to offer. And that's it for the presentation for my part.
How about the electric part of it? What you didn't? Did they replace all the wiring or anything?
No, well, the track of the bridges were replaced, and the wiring itself, no wiring was replaced other than what was on the part of the bridges themselves.
What do they use? How big the wire is?
Use number 14 wire, solid wire, solid core wires, single gauge. And we are seeing some, it is standard wiring using conduits, and as such, the clear coating is starting to peel off. But We haven't seen any problems as far as causing electrical problems in that aspect. And by the way, these trains are all DC powered. Now, some gardens you go to, they're using DCC, but we're using straight DC. And we're using Bridgeworks controllers, which have automatic overloads. And they have paid off a couple times. I've had twice last year. I've had shorts developed due to cars, and the transformer shut down right now, and we've had no problems. And the thought is that probably the fire before was due to a short circuit, a car or a train shorting across the track. But any other
I don't
questions?
think we ever really did figure out what caused the fire, Ron.
Yeah, and it never.
Well, I was the shift that was there just before the fire, and I left, and within half an hour, somebody told me on Facebook that it burnt down. I'm like, no way it didn't. I just left there, and it's like, wow, you know. So I don't know what happened after I left, but there was because that was when they had 3 shifts, and now we're just down to 2. But so I'd left at 3:30, and I think it was about 4:30 is when it burnt, you know.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, Steve's got videos of it going up in flames, and he said the flames were 60 foot tall. And they said the person that first noticed it, they smelled smoke, and they opened one of the doors. The flames came out, so they quick shut the door and called Steve to call 911.
right, it was already too late. Yeah.
Yep, that's what they said. It was going pretty fast. They had 2.5 tons of cedar. I guess it goes up pretty quick.
Right. Well, it's pretty dry after 5-6 years too.
Yeah.
But you talked about the Chicago one. If nobody's been up to the Chicago one, it's well worth going up there to see. It's probably, I would say, a good 4 or 5 times the size of the one up at Fernwood.
Oh, yeah.
And it represents a lot of Chicago stuff. I think they've got an L unit up there, and they've got, you know, a lot of the not trolleys, but, you know, a lot of the L stuff that Chicago has. It's pretty nice. It's worth going up there to the Botanical Garden.
Very good. Well, thanks, Ron. That was a fascinating presentation. It's great to see how all that stuff goes together.
Like Ron says, it's an ongoing battle to keep things running.
Between the raccoons and the stink bugs.
Well, yeah, the stink bugs they just ruin a lot of the stuff, unfortunately, and they don't really die in the winter, because I brought some locomotives home at the end of October and just left them in the garage all winter, and brought them in the spring, and they're alive yet.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
keeping them in the garage trying to freeze them out don't work.
They're all huddled around the circuit board.
Could you make a box to put it in? You know, like seal it up in some kind of a crate?
Well, the part of the problem with Fernwood is they won't treat anything for, you know, they won't treat the building for, like, you know, to keep the stink bugs out, because they believe in everything natural, you know, so they don't want to kill them off. So it's just like they're searching for a warm place, and the buildings are kind of warm, and anytime the rolling stock or locomotive sits there, that's a warm place for them to attract to. Yeah. And you can go in there in the fall and pick up a piece of rolling stock and it can just, on the back side of it can have 3 or a couple hundred stink bugs on there. It's just almost sickening, you know. It's like, but they, you know, Fernwood, they won't treat anything to get rid of them. So it's an ongoing challenge in the fall for sure.
And they use like, I've heard like bonnie plants, or there's different plants. Like I put marigolds in to keep my rabbits away from my tomatoes. But I think I'm looking up right here. There's white vinegar, hot water, dish soap, white vinegar,
Yeah.
and spraying the whole track down with that stuff. I'm just wondering if there's a natural remedy against stink bugs. It's probably, more raccoons, let them eat the stink bugs.
Right, yeah. Well, we haven't had too much trouble with raccoons, but some, like Ron says, they get up in that one cavity there, and that's a hiding spot for them at night. And, luckily there hasn't been any living up there in the daytime. They haven't made a nest or anything that I know of. But,
Hey, Ron, this is Rod Thompson. As a teenager, I had a pet raccoon that I raised from infancy, and they are very curious and they are very intelligent. My pet learned to climb a screen door, pull down the handle, stick its other paw between the door, and pull open the door to get inside the house. And at 6 months old, she was strong enough to rip apart chicken wire with just taking her hands or her paws and just ripping the heck out of it. They are strong and they are very, very intelligent.
and they do a lot of damage too.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Is there electricity up in there, Paul and Ron?
Yes.
Yeah, there's electricity in the building, yeah.
What I've got in my garage, it keeps mice away, and I tried it in the shed, and it keeps raccoons away. These little things you plug in, it's a ultrasonic thing for rodents.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know if Fernwood would go with something like that or not, because like I say, they don't want to, do anything that's not natural, really. If a bee gets in the building, they'll try to catch it and take it back outside, And it's like they won't kill it. But so yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I never thought about that, but that might keep them out. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's that was a great presentation. Appreciate you doing that, Ron. And we're talking about next week. Maybe we'll do a collection of photos of elevators that Ron will put together. We'll see. We're talking about that. If you have anything that you'd like to present, let me know, and we'll get you on the schedule. We'll be flipping over to Tuesdays, starting on the second Tuesday in June. I think it's June 8th. And but next week will still be on Thursday.
Yeah. Thanks, Ron, for all your help on the railroad up there.
Okay, you too, Paul. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Looks like a labor of love.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Stay healthy.
Yep. Bye-bye.